and welcome to the High Octane podcast. This is a Friday Night Fuel production. My name is Zach Woods, and over here is a guy who really likes impromptu dinners, Ricky Gonzalez. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah. Sorry about that. We were supposed to start at 9 and then pushed it to 9:30 and then turns into 9:45. But it wouldn't be proper if the Mexican doesn't show up late in his proper showing. But hope everybody's having a good night and a good week. And welcome to episode 11. Turn right to go left. And Zach, we got a lot to talk about this week with Kansas in our rearview mirror, and we'll let you touch on that. And then previewing the Chicago Street Course this coming week here in Friday Night Fuel. And really excited to get the playoffs in round two underway and to see kind of the contenders that were up at the front this past week. And now we're going to preview a wild card race. And next week will also be another wild card when we go to Talladega. But yeah, Chicago Street Course. And that's not something your buddy's looking forward to say the least.
Yeah, me either. So, but it's on there, so it's the next track ready for these guys at Friday Night Fuel. And I think that regardless, it's going to be a unique show. We're going to talk about some of the rules that make this track on the schedule pretty unique and drivers have to look out for. As you can probably tell by now, if you have eyeballs, you know that, well, we look a little different. And that's because for the future plans of the show, my hope is to get the live chat somewhere over there in the middle of the screen. It's not on right now, but I haven't really tested it yet, so I didn't want to debut it today. But with that, meant that this whole thing needs to look a little different. So, and it's always good to enlarge Ricky's beautiful seven-figure sculpted pearly white face. So it's good to make that change. But we hope you enjoy this change. As you can see above me, we have the rundown scrolling on the top ticker for tonight, and then down here you'll be able to notice the points for Friday Night Fuel. Yes, the giant points graphic that is blown up and is hard to read. That's gone. We're not doing that anymore. Every week you'll be able to see at least the updated right now playoff driver points so that we can keep track of the race for the championship. Really excited to see you guys engage here in chat. Man, Ricky, they talked an awful lot before the show, and now nobody's talking. So I guess it's our room to talk for a little while, and we'll see where the crowd inserts themselves for tonight. Let's take a look in the rearview mirror for Kansas. It was a very special race, as we talked extensively last show for Friday Night Fuel. The Wendy Joe Memorial Race at Kansas, one that every Titletown racing driver wants to wind up winning, and it indeed came down to Titletown Racing slugging it out for the win here, and they certainly got their money's worth for a show at the end of this thing, as your brother is able to win this one at Kansas. Really excited to go over the finishing results with you now here. Maybe if I can pull up the right league, because tier one's now clogging up my app because now I'm in like 3 of those. Let's get the right one up. Let's get the results up for Kansas. Now we're ready to go. Mark Gonzalez, I knew that one. Mark won at Kansas, and your top 5 is Ricky. And then James Morris finishes 3rd, Caleb Collins 4th, and John Gutekunst 5th. Ricky, talk to the guys out there that are watching about your night specifically at Kansas and your thoughts overall at a race that featured 6 cautions over the 160-lap contest.
Yeah, it was great to have us have 20 cars on Friday Night Fuel. I know we struggled the week before at Dover, where we only had 14, and so that means less cautions, less chaos, as you could say. But it was good to see 20 cars out on track. And yeah, our night was simple: to get stage points, try to finish in the top 3, kind of. And our goal always when we do these league races is to just get interviewed at the end of the night. So we accomplished both. We got stage points and we got interviewed at the end. But It was kind of a slugfest throughout the event. We got those stage points, and we had a couple cautions through the second half of the race, and got caught speeding on pit road, which is something you talk about all the time, where you don't want to get caught speeding or any pit road penalty. And so we went to the back, and kind of just worked our way through the field, and when it's all said and done, we were there. And coming to about maybe 10, 5 laps to go, kind of in that range little area. Me and you were battling for the top spot, and it was kind of fun to have a Titletown teammate. I know you're part of Spin Move Racing, which is kind of like a sister satellite to us. But it was cool to have that battle with you. And I mean, we beat it doors on the back straightaway a couple times. You were side drafting me at the corner of the exits and all that stuff. And Mark just had a heck of a run off of four and took us three wide in the tri-oval, and did a fantastic move. And I know you're not a fan of it, but he pulled a slider and just executed it to perfection. And you gave him the bump, and for whatever reason, it decided to send you into me, and we kind of glued with each other. And I was thinking, down the back there when we were glued, like, this is it. We're about to wreck. Me and him are gonna wreck, and it's gonna be Mark's fault, and we're gonna dog cuss him, and that wasn't the case. We were able to get off of you, and kind of, I know you slid back a couple spots, which is not what you wanted, but I was able to keep going, and yeah, couldn't just never get back to Mark, and Mark ran the high side, which was the momentum line all night. And he did what he had to do, and yeah, came home a winner, and kudos to him. He did what he had to do and pulled a great move on the tri-oval, and a great move with the slider in 1 and 2, and yeah, came out with a victory. But overall, I thought the race was really, really well. The setups was different this week, Zach. We were able to throw three different setups. One was a qualifying setup, and then we had a loose setup for those who are new to iRacing or just racing in general. A loose setup means the back end of the car wants to kick out every now and then. And then you had another option, which was a tighter setup, which means the front of the race car doesn't want to turn compared to what that loose setup was. And so we decided to take the tighter setup, and I believe majority of the field took the tighter setup. And just on the short run, it was super tight. And then as the run went on, less fuel in the car, back in the back of it, it just loosened up a little bit. So probably for a short run, probably would have went with the looser set, but we picked what we picked, and it is what it is at the end of the day. But overall, I thought it was a fantastic race. We went back and watched the broadcast. I had an opportunity last night to watch that with a couple friends of mine. You're included in that voice chat, and just to rewatch that, it looked like it was a great product. And James and Till, they nailed it with the setup this past week. And so kudos to those guys for building a set that was just raceable, and it could last throughout the duration of a run, and all that stuff. And we had multiple strategies too, Zach. Let's not forget about that. That first stage, you couldn't go just on one tank of gas. You had to pit at exactly the right moment. And for Mark and myself, and I believe some of the other Titletown guys, they were actually clutching, turning the car off, and coasting it into the corners. And that's how Mark was able to build that 8-second gap, where it just, you could not catch Mark. Mark probably pitted at the right time. Also, that probably goes in favor with him. But guys clutching to make it to the stage, and I'll be honest, it was one of those drivers clutching it and max saving and trying to make it to the end and not run out. And it was, I believe, one of the best races we put on. I would say it's second next to Michigan on the schedule that we've had so far.
Yeah, it was a really fun race in terms of fuel mileage. No driver really had a bead on how to make this work, right? Because it was so close, and it all came down to driving style. And if you wrapped the bottom, you saved gas, but you weren't fast, and you were able to save tire down there on the bottom, but you could rip the fence and gap the field and use more fuel, and then eventually save later on. I know John Goodekunst is there in chat. I know that boy was clutching hard, and just racing around him towards the end of the stage, and just had to kind of let him know, hey, John, I'm not going to pass you. I'm not racing for points, you are. So, yeah, that aspect of the race was a lot of fun. And, of course, any track where driver personalities come out, I'm a big fan of, and Kansas is a great track for that. You have guys that are super comfortable with ripping the top and are able to be fast up there, and then you have guys that are bottom feeders that are just relentless down there on the apron. They're probably better on the longer run. And then you have to, whether you're high or low, you got to find clean air at some point if you want to pass somebody. So you have to be agile enough to make your way through the field. And that was a lot of fun to be up in the conversation with some of these guys that, well, you included, and some of the guys that hear in chat, and Mark as well, who are up front every week. And that was a lot of fun in order to get out there and to duke it out with you guys. That last caution with about 12 to go, I knew that, hey, I had it playing in my mind all week. Like, my mind was made up if it was going to come down to, and if I had the speed, which was another big if. But I qualified fourth, so whenever Zach Woods qualifies halfway decent, people got issues. Because, it was a lot of fun to race there. And but I knew that if it was going to come down to that situation, I was going to take 2 tires. And how the end of the race played out, I'm not upset at Mark. Mark's got to do what he's got to do in order to win. And it's frustrating. I'm more frustrated that I didn't win, right? Where we talked about last week how this race means so much, and you want to win it for the foolers who are watching, for everybody who is supporting the cause that night with the special paints on the car. Had Wes make me an awesome paint, and so it's even more like, oh man, like this only deserves to be in victory lane. So Mark, if you happen to catch this between now and tomorrow, I'm not mad. There's no, I'm way more angry at myself than I am at anybody making a move for the win. But we also talked about last week how managing risk and making sure that you know who you're racing around. I think at the point where I kind of got stuck on Mark's bumper and got sucked into you going down the backstretch, it finally clicked. Like, man, these guys are racing for a championship. I mean, I could wreck us all, and none of us get anything, or I can back out, and some of us survive, and that's eventually what happened there. So, I'm sore I didn't win. I thought I played the strat well. Probably had about a fourth, third place car most of the night, and didn't fall into my lap. And that's racing. That's fine. But honestly, it was a great race. Saw a lot of names up front, Ricky, all night long. Brett Bullard had a great short run car. John Garrett was really good on the short run. Nate Eastep was up front. He was racing in the lead for a while. My buddy David, proud Papa Bird moment here with my dad, with my
my dad.
Yeah, my dad. My dad's not racing. Let me tell you, but. With my buddy David, he got out there on strategy and was leading. I know him and Caleb had a unique strategy in the beginning of the race to save a ton of gas, willingly get lapped, save your stuff, fly by the leaders as they're saving gas later on. It had everything. It was awesome.
Yeah, that's all you can ask for in a race like that. And again, I'm going to go back to Jeremy Parker, our guy who does the broadcast week in and week out, Snake Bitten Gaming, exclusively on Facebook. And Zach, I'm looking at the overlays. That's something you forgot, my friend, to add that banner to it. And I'm sorry. We'll blame it on me. I was late to the show, and it's rightfully so. And it was just a fantastic, man. I can't say this enough. Great product. Seeing 20 cars on track when we again the week before we only had 14. Had a little bit of chaos, and I remember Zach coming in. Well, this is what you get when you want a full field. This is what you get when you want a full field. But again, it's just great to see the names that we haven't seen week in and week out in the field trying to battle for a win. And Zach, you did everything right. You had the right strat call. You had 2 tires on the car. You put yourself in a prime position to try to win the race, which everybody back at the stable, TTR, and even Spin Move, and even the guys that aren't a part of the stable that had the till on their cars. They want to win this race, and this race just means a little bit more just because of what the ramifications are when it comes to the Wendy Joe Memorial. That it is what it is. So you put yourself in a position to try to win the race, and going to use a little of your sayings, it's just not God's timing right now for you to win in Friday Night Fury
Oh,
yet. So
oh,
I
oh,
know it's not a shot. I promise, it's not a shot.
oh.
But
He's
it,
preaching to me,
there's a time
everybody.
coming.
Oh,
There's a time coming where Zach Woods is going to get his name in victory lane in this series. And if it wasn't last Friday night, it's coming up in the next couple of weeks. There's a couple tracks that I know that he's really, really good at. Next week's another crapshoot. We already said it's Talladega. And I don't know. There's a lot more TTR SMN drivers than there are 1776 JST or any other team for that matter. I'm just going to throw that out there. So, see what we can do next week at Talladega. Maybe push that number 6 to the win. But I know Brett was in the chat saying what was our favorite Wendy Joe paint besides our own. I'm gonna have to go with yours. I told you before the session and when Wes debuted it in our team Discord, that was by far my favorite paint. The way that Wes was able to collaborate and make the ribbons where it kind of just faded into a certain different color, I thought that was cool. And then he took a little bit on other cars. Wes is a phenomenal idealist, I guess you could say. And on our car, he put the ribbons, but kind of like the Alex Bowman 25 with the Ally, where they have the A's all over the place. He did that with the Wendy Joe car, and I thought that was cool too. But I will say by far my favorite was.
oh no, oh no. Oh,
You're gonna have to hit me on this one. It was the old Eagle
oh.
One paint, I believe, and that looks really really cool.
Well, you froze there for about half a second. So, well, it was a little bit more than that. Chat, you can roast him because Seven Figure Ricky needs to get better internet. So, but yeah, I mean, I enjoyed my paint. It's got the 1998 look of especially being a darker color, the Mark Martin Eagle One paint, sort of mixed with the iconic Valvoline scheme that we think about when we think about Mark Martin with the V's going up the side of the car, and it was really really cool to see what Wes could pull off, and I never even thought in my mind like, hey, I'm gonna get a Mark scheme out of this, and sure enough, he did. So I would say, my favorite Wendy paint, other than my own, and I mean, honestly, my favorite is my own. So, if it, I always like the simple cars. It is gonna be a weird take, but like when I think of iconic cars in NASCAR history, the Black 3, the Red 21, the and now even today when we have different Penske schemes that just run one color on their car. I really enjoy that kind of brand identity. And Brett Bullard, I know he's in chat, but he has oftentimes mimicked Penske schemes and particularly those simple schemes that just I enjoy. So to see that little bit of flair on his car geared towards the Wendy Joe Memorial while it is staying true to what he normally winds up driving. Brett normally goes out there and drives a Menards S car and is very visible on the racetrack. So I enjoy those kinds of simple schemes. I know I'm probably in the minority when it comes to that, and I know I sometimes don't paint my own cars like that, but just to see a totally teal car out there buzzing around. I enjoyed David's scheme. I thought his was unique because David always does his own stuff, and we're all driving paints by West that have a gold number on it. David went with the teal number on his sort of darker scheme. I like that too. So there were plenty out there to really make note of. So I really thought that the race itself looked good. I thought that the race raced good, and honestly, it was a great Kansas race. So can't really complain. So any closing thoughts there on Kansas, or do you want to move on?
Yeah, before we do move on, we just got a mod spa. Let's fix that number on the roof maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Yeah.
let's
Flip it.
from here and flip it, I think it'll look good. But yeah, it was definitely a fun race, Zach, and I enjoyed being a part of it. And it was cool to go back and see it on broadcast, and even going back and seeing the Twitch streamers. I had a chance to watch John T's stream a little bit because I wanted to see what happened with we had a wreck with John T. And I just kind of wanted to go back and see what that looked like. And unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to get that far on the stream before work called. Sometimes you got to do work when you're at work. Funny how that works, huh? See what I did there? Anyways, but want getting a chance to watch even Mark's stream, seeing what he was doing, and then we went back and watched our stream too, just to kind of gauge what we could have done differently. But yeah, I thought all in all it was a fun race and fun to be a part of, and I thought it was a great product, and hopefully this week it's not a you know what show.
We'll get to Chicago Street Course. Calm down, calm down. We got a lot to cover between here and there, so let's go on to our next topic. As you can see on the bottom of the screen tonight, you can see the rundown of the participants here in the points battle, and I think this is a great time for us to take a step back from what was Kansas and have an understanding that everything is still on the table. Mark might have won the first race of this round, but the difference between first and the last driver that's in the bout for the championship is 14 points. So plenty of opportunity to make up that ground, especially at a road course that is not really a road course, it's a street course. So there's a whole different driving discipline that goes into this week, a real wild card for these drivers battling for a championship. What are your thoughts here as the points continue to scroll?
Yeah, it's definitely wasn't expecting what I saw. I thought we would, just me personally, just thought we would be down in the field a little bit more. Thought it would probably be Mark, John, East up, and then it'd be a battle between John Garrett, myself, Wes, and Brett. But to see how they shook up and when they were released this afternoon, definitely not mad about it, right? So I think the guys kind of battling for that last spot. I think if Mark and John and myself have a good week this week, and let's be honest, probably not going to have a lot of people show up. So that's even more important to get where a good finishing position, right? If we don't have a lot of guys getting the stage points, if there's just, let's say, 10 drivers, well, all of us automatically get those stage points. Right now, it comes down to where you finish. And so now it's all about, you just got to get a solid finish after the end of this week and tomorrow night. So to be, Brett's only ahead 3 points, and then Estep's 4 behind him, and then there's no telling how far John Garrett is. I didn't get a chance to like really dive into the points. I just saw our name where we were, and cool, moved on with our day. But those guys are going to be battling a lot this week, and at a place where it's really hard to pass, and you just want to hit your laps in a smooth transition at a place that's also pretty bumpy because it is a street. Remember, this is where everyday cars, and we'll get into this later, but everyday cars drive on this. And looking at the points now, like Wes needs a good day. He's not a road course driver. Brett needs a good day. Probably not a road course driver. Estep, I don't know his road course mentality. I don't know what speed he's gonna have. John Garrett, I don't know what speed he'll have either. Gutekunst is decent. Mark is fantastic when it comes to road course racing. This is like up his wheelhouse, and I can honestly see him sweeping the group in all 3 races this week. Us, we're decent. We're not the best, but we can make time and lose time here and there, and be really fast one lap and suck the next, and kind of just goes back and forth. And so I think for this week, everyone just needs to be consistent. Hit a time, stay with that time, and don't try to push the envelope, because once you do wreck the car, there's no runoff here at Chicago this week. So once you hit the wall, and your day's almost done unless you come down pit road and burn a fast repair and use a untimely pit stop when you don't have to use a pit stop. And so hopefully, I think this week we're trying to do a one stopper, and we got to come down more than once. I think you're going to be in a whole lot of hurt and a whole lot of trouble when it comes to these point standings.
Spence, track makes you not want to go to Chicago and drive on the streets. So I don't plan on it anytime soon. So good to know. But yeah, certainly really with a track like this and factoring in the field size, there's I don't know if we're going to see a ton of movement here in the standings just simply because they are close, but there's not a lot of ground to be found. You're going to have to really duke it out at Talladega, where stage racing is going to matter and team orders are going to matter, and you're going to have to try to gain as many points as you possibly can in order to make up the distance that we see here on the bottom of the screen. There's just not a lot of wiggle room for these drivers to move up or down if the field is limited this week. So I think that for the drivers that are going to participate, you hit the nail on the head. Make it a good points day. Make it as decent as you possibly can. Don't overdrive the car and put yourself in a good position where you can walk out of here with a shot at Talladega. So we'll get there in a little while, but we're not at Chicago quite yet. So let's make some predictions here for the Final Four. And I know this is too early to tell, right? Even though right now in the real life NASCAR world, that's the popular thing to do, to pick your playoff bracket and to pick your Final Four, and to do that right now. For us, we're just a few weeks out. We go, this is way too early. But there's only a couple weeks left, so let's take a look at the playoff field and pick a Final Four, knowing the races that are in front of these competitors for this round.
Oh man, you put me on the spot, and I kind of want to tell you I don't want to pick a four just because we're involved.
I was afraid you were going to do that. I'll do it.
I'll go. I'll do it. I think we're in it. I think if we have a good run this week, we're in it. We're going to be kind of solidly in there. I think John's one of them. John Gutekunst, obviously Mark. So there's three. Man, the wild card is who's the fourth, because there's so many good drivers that could be the fourth. And probably the two teammates are probably going to hate me. I'm going to go John Garrett. I think Garrett finds a way to get it done this week at Chicago and has enough points to solidify himself up there. And then he probably does what he needs to do at Talladega with the stage points and a finish, maybe a win, to help build the confidence with him. And I think he sneaks in there by a point. And I think he gets it over Brett by a point, 1 point. So Brett, if you're watching, which I know you are, find a way to make up a point, and I think you're in. But if you're not, I think John Garrett slips his way in.
Yeah, well, I do like those picks. I think that looking at what we have going on here in terms of a points battle, everything is really close, and the gap to fourth right now is 10 points from first place. But then you have minus 10, minus 13, minus 14, and these guys are really trying to duke it out here. And now I'm second guessing all of my prep work. Let's see. Did I do this right? Maybe I didn't. I'm missing. It's not wide enough. It's not wide. It's not wide enough.
You're missing Garrett and Kirby Caputa.
Where's Garrett? Where's Garrett in your points? Yeah, Garrett's there. There's Garrett and there's Kirby. All right. So this is just a matter of this not being wide enough. See, now we're learning on the fly because I spent way too much time doing this. And so let's watch it scroll. Come on. I bet you with that fix, it fixes it. But watch, this is how the magic gets made, everybody. And there's Garrett. And there's Kirby. So now what we do, are you ready? Your minds are going to be blown. We move it magically, and we shrink it magically, and then we bring it back. My OCD will not let me rest until this is perfect, but that's it.
Welcome to live podcast streaming, everybody.
There you go.
This is what we
hey,
do.
It's the first time that I use those points, and I can't believe I've stared at that ticker for so long, and it didn't dawn on me that not everybody was showing up. But yeah, basically, how the sauce gets made, everybody, is that you type in all the things that you need in your ticker, and then you just have to plug in numbers to get your bar to be as wide as your length of text is, which you have no idea of knowing until you actually type in the right number to get it right. And then you have to go back into the program and squish it back up so it appears on the place of the screen that you want it to appear on. So thanks for bearing with me there. But now Garrett's here, and so is Kirby. So thankful that you caught me there. Now we're good for next week. So oh man, can't believe that blunder exists, but here we are. New setup. We get it done this week. Everything's good. We move forward. We add new stuff when we can. So that's how I'm trying to be the brains of the operation here. But that's fine. Leave them off. That way Ricky's prediction of me being out 1 point is wrong. So anyway, back to my prediction here with these points. I agree with your top three. I don't quite know John Gutekunst's ability on the street course, so that'll be a bit of a wild card. Don't really know him as a street racer. I mean, I may be wrong, but I don't think this is something he's actively looking forward to. If he's still watching, he might be able to correct me here. But I think Nate Estep gets into the Final Four, sitting at 14 back. That is, he's just one of those guys that's up front every week. He seems to be very good at different track disciplines. And John, I won our last road course. Well, see, I might have not even.
You did.
I wasn't even. That was Brands Hatch, right? I wasn't even racing then. So how do you expect me to know if I wasn't there? It didn't happen. So there you go. But I think Nate does a really good job at just kind of holding his own. I think he could wind up winning at Talladega. He's a very aggressive kind of driver. It kind of suits his driving style well. He just needs to find buddies to push him up there and try to get the job done. So I agree with your top three, and then my wild card will be Nate. So oops, sorry for the caps. No, don't apologize. You meant it. Everybody knows it. So this is the most chaotic show I think we've ever had. But
it's the most fun show we've ever had.
So let's. I'm restoring order. I'm grabbing this. All right.
Holy crap!
All right. So
give Zach admin power, and he's back.
So here we are. Let's get to the pit stop. Finally, I don't know about you, but I wore out my tires that first run. Holy moly. So we're going to talk about NASCAR this weekend. If you have subscribed to Spin Move iRacing Network, you've been able to see our new show on the platform, something that I've been sitting on for a long time and really thankful that I have some time in order to do this. But Fast Track Talk is going to be the weekly show that will start, well, already has started, so you need to turn on notifications so that you know. But one of the topics of Fast Track Talk was a preview of what is to come, and we're going to mirror that this week as we talk about Bowman Gray here as the Clash now arrives to a track where they haven't seen NASCAR racing in over 50 years. A lot has been done in order to make this track safe for these next-gen cars, but the track remains the same. Ricky, they're going back to their roots. What are we watching for when it comes to racing at Bowman Gray?
And it's going to be a lot of bumper cars, I think, this weekend. A lot of probably ticked off drivers when it's all said and done. And you're basically, we talked last night too, Zach. Yeah, I'm going to steal it, so sorry again. You're taking what is out west and basically picking it up from the Coliseum and throwing it in North Carolina at Bowman Gray, a historic place. That's all you're doing. They're racing around the same football stadium, same football field, I'm sorry. And that's it. It is what it is at this point. I miss the days where they go back to Daytona and kind of just, that was another practice session for them to get ready for the 500. But I get what NASCAR's trying to do, trying to make it entertaining for the fans. And that's all it is nowadays, is just entertainment for the fans. And it is cool to see them go to such a historic place such as Bowman Gray, where we've seen so many fights. I mean, some of our our champions and some of our most popular drivers have raced there. Ryan Blaney, Chase Elliott, Bubba Wallace, they have all raced there, and beat it and banging with each other. And I do like the upgrades that they did, adding the safer barrier, adding some stadium lights, where it looks like you're at a college football game and they're kind of just flickering all over the place. And so that's a pretty cool standpoint that they added to it. But I don't know what the product is gonna be there. I just I'm very hesitant to watch Saturday night. I know I will just because NASCAR's back and it's the first race of 25, and I just think it's gonna be a slugfest, bumper car, and we'll get into our predictions later at the end of this pit stop. But there's a certain driver I'm looking at where every time they go to a certain racetrack, this driver always tends to win. And I know some people in the chat probably know who I'm talking about, but I don't know what to expect. No pit stops. There's no pit road there. We didn't have one at LA Coliseum. That was kind of the infield. So I'm interested to see if do they kind of do what they did at LA Coliseum and layer the infield as far as when they do all their heat stuff. Like, do they just park there until everything's over with? Or um, very interested to see how this thing all works out and how it plays out. But expecting the pack house, I believe it's a sellout. So they did a great job of promoting this, and man, I'm on the fence of what the product is gonna be. I really am. I don't, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah, I, I pretty much am right there with you. If you want to know more about my opinion, you should watch Fast Track Talk on this channel. So, ta-da! But
Good point. Good selling point.
I totally agree that this is it's going to come at a cost. Where even Jeff Gluck was able to talk about it this week on the Teardown, where the hype for this race, the advertisement for this race is almost non-existent. I mean, they did a documentary on it. And that's pretty much it. Fox isn't really pushing it at all. They're with the IndyCar now, or Formula one of those two, and they're really pushing that coverage as they should. And it's a shame because the event itself, going back to their roots and all that could be fun. But I think at the end of the day, you have a very flawed car that's not good at short tracks. On a very, very short track, cramming it with as many cars as humanly possible, where only one line you can pass people with, and a car that doesn't do bump and runs. It is just, I'm hurting for the racing product, and I don't think I'm going to get it here at Bowman Gray. Brett said product's going to be the same as Coliseum. I think so. I think you've literally picked up that track and you've moved it to the East Coast and slapped some different branding on it and call it a day. This all stems back to NASCAR refusing to admit that they messed up when it comes to speed weeks. NASCAR didn't have a month of May like we do before the Indy 500 in IndyCar. But man, we got close when it was speed weeks, when you had happy hour, you had your practice sessions, you qualified, you had the duels. And that was a 2-week thing leading up to eventually the 500. That was NASCAR's version of the celebration that we're back. And we just don't have it anymore. And the sport has refused to admit that moving this away and saying, hey, we can do this anywhere and we can invite everybody, which was another huge topic on Fast Track Talk. It's taken away from what this race used to be. And they need to go back to what it was, an exclusive race with top end talent that you had to earn to be in the field, not on the racetrack in a heat race before the race starts. No, you got to get a pole and go and earn it and make your way into the Clash, and then have it at Daytona, make it a celebration, have people camp out, have people build the anticipation for the 500. We don't have that anymore, and we don't have anything like the month of May anymore for the Brickyard, and It's a shame. It really is a shame. I've gotten on that soapbox a lot over there. I'm going to try not to do it over here, but my prediction over here is the same as what I said over at Fast Track Talk. You got to look at Joey Logano. That's this is his bread and butter, and you know what? This is what the sport, this is what NASCAR, the sanctioning body, needs, because they're going to promote the heck out of three-time champion Joey Logano. As much as the public has disdained this last championship from him as statistically the least deserving NASCAR champion we have ever had, and they're going to go, see, look, the champ's back. And what does it mean? Nothing. And it's unfortunate, but I do think that Joey's going to be the guy you're going to have to look out for. Something with this car and new tracks he's able to really figure out.
Yeah, I agree with you, and that was going to be my pick as well. And yeah, we had an opportunity to listen to your other podcasts, and I agree with everything that you just said. You and outside of speed weeks, right? With or what's going on during speed weeks, it's more than just the NASCAR stuff. You had IROC that was there during that week. You had obviously the truck stuff. You had all the practice sessions that built up. You had qualifying. Even after qualifying, that's when they did the duel, not the duel. They did the Budweiser shootout. You can say.
Yep.
And this is what made this race so popular was literally after qualifying, they're racing the Bud shootout, whether it was at night or it was right after qualifying during the day. And then you had the Xfinity practices and all that stuff, and then the race on Saturday, and then all that built up, like you said, to the 500. And we don't have that. They took it away from us, and this is what didn't make sense to me is you wanted to be cost efficient with travel and buying or building a new car and all this stuff. Yet you went to LA for 2 years in a row, and then you come straight back to Daytona.
Yeah.
Now I get it, you had 2 weeks to build all that stuff, but there's more than just the race teams that have to travel. The souvenir hauler people have to travel, which I'm fortunate to know with some of the people that work in the souvenir industry. They had to go from LA to Daytona, back to LA, and then back to Daytona a couple times. And so if you're trying to be cost efficient NASCAR, why are you sending people to LA? Like you're going coast to coast in a matter of 2 weeks, right? 3 weeks at that. And it's just mind blowing to me that they would. I get we don't have a race in California with the destruction of Auto Club Speedway. Yeah, you have Sonoma, which is fine. That's later on in the year. But at the end of the day, we don't have that month of May that you touch, Zach. We don't. It's gone. And even in the month of May with IndyCar, they've separated that so much with the road course, and then they get into the month of May stuff. Like it's not a full month like we saw back in the early 2000s, early 90s, where they were just racing the oval the whole month of May. So I think NASCAR needs to do a look at themselves in the mirror and try to revamp this. It's the same you're doing with the All-Star race. You're revamping the All-Star race. Why not do it with before the season? The hype is there. All of it's ready for the first race of the season. Fans are excited to see this. And then you go to just another LA Coliseum, and it's such a disappointment. And I hate being negative on this show, but really a disappointment for the fans where the guy bumps him. Pretty sure he's going to that safer barrier, whether he likes it or not. And I know people, some are in the chat. Drivers can go through the grass and kind of retaliate. Yeah, that's all fine and dandy, but I don't think nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to see drivers tear up equipment or I mean the fighting. I'm a fan of the fighting. I'm not gonna lie about that, but like we don't want to tear equipment up to make our point. And Brett's talking about ISMA too. That makes Speed Weeks the 24-hour race. That's like the start of Speed Weeks, and now you have ISMA 24-hour race to Daytona. And then you have this big long break, and then we get into Speed Weeks, right? So, yeah, I think they need to figure something out where they got to bring this back. And man, I remember as a little boy having the T-shirt, and it had everything that was lined out for Speed Weeks: the ARCA race, the Goodies Clash Dash. I mean, there's so many different things that happen during the month of February leading up to the 500 that they kind of just taken away. So, hopefully NASCAR can revamp this and go back to what it used to be for the month of February.
All right. Well, we've taken enough time here at this pit stop. Let's move on to a preview of next week, the Chicago Street Course. Um, Normally, I give some long diatribe and throw out some trivia and some interesting facts with the history of each racetrack NASCAR winds up going to. And uh, we replicate that here through iRacing. Problem is, Chicago Street Course hasn't been around long enough to build a whole lot of history. So, generally speaking, um, the Chicago Street Course is NASCAR's latest endeavor to expand their horizons with the next gen car. And through negotiations with City Council, this street race was born, and it didn't come without controversy and some pushback from local legislate. However, after some back and forth, NASCAR eventually birthed a platform in which they can send their race cars on the streets of Chicago, and these drivers now are able to race the same streets as well, anybody else can, and produce a race that is extremely unique to the NASCAR circuit and ultimately has produced some memorable moments, one in which being the inaugural race in which a typhoon came along and decided it wanted to flood the streets of Chicago. And NASCAR's been learning this course on the fly, inserting proper drainage systems in case of rain, because they are able to race in some rain on this street course, and ultimately NASCAR has doubled and tripled down at racing at this new track simply because the fan experience here has been unexpectedly overwhelmingly positive, where they have now catered a fan session for those who arrive early with different concerts and popular music artists coming in and performing before and after the race. And it's going to be yet again another spectacle as NASCAR continues to race here, but we won't have to be listening to any concerts as we puddle around this course. It's going to be done in the virtual world. So I'm excited for this racetrack. What do you think in terms of racing here? This is our first attempt at doing something this different. I mean, we're always hesitant to put road courses on the schedule. This is a completely different beast.
Yeah, but before we get into that, Zach, can you name me the past two winners that won this race? I just kind of want to
I kind
hear
of,
you say it.
I think I've blacked out. Um, I don't, I can't really remember. Yes, Alex Bowman has notched a victory in his belt here after rumors of getting let go from Hendrick Motorsports. So, um,
Yeah,
this is a very special racetrack for Alex Bowman fans, and yeah, no pressure. The driver of the Mimic Ally car, so
yeah,
you're
yeah.
gonna have to show up.
So that just means this track is going to be disappearing in a couple of seasons because every track that he wins at, that seems to disappear. So yeah, expecting this to not be on the schedule anytime soon. So yay, go NASCAR! Proud of you. Anyways, back to your question. Yeah, it's going to be difficult this week. We had a chance to run some laps yesterday, and we were able to throw down some times, and I'm sure Teal saw it. And another Discord that we're a part of where you can see a little bit of data telemetry and all that stuff. We were able to throw down. It looked like a heater, but I'm gonna get in the car after the podcast and try to turn some laps with a teammate and just kind of help them, guide them with where they need to be as far as tomorrow goes. And yeah, we kind of just put it on the track for an hour and kind of just figured it out after an hour and watched some videos and saw some tutorials on YouTube where we need to hit our marks and all that stuff. But it's very bumpy, very bumpy. And I haven't had a chance to test the setup that Teal posted earlier this week, or James. I don't remember. It's one of the two that posted a setup, but very bumpy. It can loop at any moment because of the bumps, and it's not technical like your Sonomas or your Codas. Really, it's just very you feel out of control most of the times, and it's just very bouncy. You feel like a basketball dribbling on the basketball court. Funny as I wear the basketball hoodie, right? So it just feels weird at Chicago, and there's wheel spin where you don't think that you're gonna have wheel spin, and then there's throttle control where I think the dirt guys, if they're good on the road course, if they're good on dirt road, I think they'll fit here just with how the car is and whatnot. But it's gonna be a very intriguing race tomorrow night. Of it's just gonna be who can survive. If you can survive the first stage and put laps together and not try to run all out, which there's certain things to the next gen car on a road course that you can push and do and whatnot. And if you could just run clean laps and not hit the wall and damage the race car and do what you need to do, I think that's going to be the key tomorrow night and of what could happen of trying to be on top when it comes to Chicago.
So something unique about this race this week is that there are no full course yellows except for the stage break at halfway. And these drivers have to understand that if you wreck your car or if you get in an incident, there's no pace car coming along to catch you. The race continues on. And I think something that these drivers have to understand as well, and the fans as well that are going to be watching this race, is that as incidents happen, that doesn't stop the racing, and these guys are going to have to navigate chaos as it happens in front of them and avoid everything that goes on behind them. So this is a different feel. I know Friday Night Fuel has made some decisions in order to give their drivers the best possible set of tools in order to perform well here. iRacing has a preferred driver's line where it shows kind of where you brake and shows where the car should be on the racetrack every week. Along with some other features, Friday Night Fuel traditionally turns those things off where we have enough. I don't want to say we don't trust our drivers, but we have enough trust in the driver's ability anywhere else that we don't need that tool. It's not necessary. I know this week, in order to sort of cut down on that and to give a chance for drivers that don't put in the practice before actual practice, a chance to really know this racetrack with this preferred line option now on for these drivers this week.
Yeah, and I think that's a great decision by the admin team and Zach. Now you're a part of that group, and it's that was a fantastic move. We I think that's something we have to do, and hopefully the broadcast won't pick up that driving line. I'm curious to see how that looks tomorrow night, but I think that's just another thing that makes us unique is we cater to the drivers, or at least we try to, and it's not a week in and week out basis. But it being a new track, just an interesting spectacle, as you called it, an interesting event. I think that's the right thing to do. Is not everybody's the greatest road course driver, but I think if they have kind of some sort of metrics to help them get around the track, I think it's going to go bold. I think with us, we're not going to use the driving line. We were able to kind of pinpoint markers of where we need to hit our marks and all that stuff. And I think with the driving line, that just adds another distraction with where you need to brake, and you start focusing on the driving line where it breaks compared to what you're used to without the markers and all that stuff. And so I think tomorrow night we're going to roll with no driving line, and we'll see what happens with if we were wrong or if we were right. And if we're wrong, then we're wrong. Well, hopefully we're still in the top four. But I think it's going to be really interesting tomorrow, man. I really do. It's just a crapshoot race where you know who the favorite is. It's the guy in the 88 because we all know he's a phenomenal road course racer. At least me and you know he's a phenomenal road course racer. Surprise, everybody who's watching. As Brett says, surprise. I know he's trying to fix a word there, but just man, anything can happen here. Mark could loop it off the end of turn 11 and wreck his car and be done with the race, and now you have a new favorite. Or
Yeah.
Mark just drives away from the field and does whatever, right? Same with John, same with ourselves, same with you. I know you're not a road course guy, but I'm gonna even throw Wes Fuller in there. If Wes can have a clean race, he can throw his name in the hat of trying to win this race. And I know he always wants to win week in and week out. I know he's not the best road course racer, but again, anything can happen on these road courses, and especially at Chicago where you just tap the wall a little bit, it could ruin your race car. Like when I say ruin, it could break a toe link and you're just done off the slightest kiss. So yeah, it's gonna be who's pushing and who's gonna be just kind of saving their stuff and just wants to get to the end.
Yeah. Fifth gear, go on a nice Friday night drive. That's what I'm doing. So
Yeah, good luck. Let me know how that works for you.
I won't wreck. Maybe I will. I don't know. But let's get into our prediction. I think we've talked enough about keys to the race, just being smooth and understanding that the car's really going to be flighty underneath you, and understanding the surface of the racetrack is far different than anything we're going to wind up racing on really ever in Friday Night Fuel. So we're at the prediction part of the show. If you haven't caught on by now, there's a clear favorite. I'm going to pick him to go back-to-back. I think Mark is going to do really, really well. And I just feel like that's the no-brain pick. He has spent a lot of time crafting road courses as a part of his repertoire, and he is very proficient at them. So I really feel like he's going to be able to capture the momentum he got from last week. And I don't know, maybe John Gutekunst is still out there watching, and he wants to prove me wrong, but because he won the last road course race. But I feel like Mark has put in a lot of time. This is his time to shine, and I think that's going to be the winner here.
No words.
Sorry.
No words. I have no words.
I ain't gonna pick you. You're gonna speed on
No,
pit road. So
definitely not me. I'm not a road course guy. It definitely ain't me. Yeah, John did win our last road course race, so it wouldn't surprise me if he's quick tomorrow night. I'm surprised he didn't pick Teal. I wish you could have picked him.
I rather be.
It's been working great so far.
I rather be right than snarky, and with a no-brainer like this one, I would rather be right. It's been a long little while since I've accurately picked a winner, so I just think the decision's clear. I might pick Teal for Talladega, and actually might have a decent shot at getting that one right. So we'll see.
Might get wrecked next week. But,
Ricky's like, Zach is never going to be right again. And
I was going to say, man, when's the last time you were right?
Since I got half of Mark's last win right, because I picked you.
Oh, well. Nah, you didn't pick me. You picked Mark. Let's get it right. And then
is that how that worked? Then you won.
That's how it worked.
Then you won.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Just trying to figure out, just trying to make conversation right now. This is a podcast where we do talk about everything motorsports and Friday Night Fuel. And so, yeah, just trying to. No, not the time. I was just wondering.
This guy, he's late to the show, and now he's running the show. What's wrong with him? So, all right. Well, you're all fueled up and ready to go. I'm really excited that we get to do something a little bit different this week. I hope you are too. Drivers who are watching, fans who are watching, just know you can watch Friday Night Fuel exclusively on Snake Bitten Gaming over at Facebook. Feel free to go over there and follow what Jeremy does over there. He does a great job at the broadcast. Really got to see sort of a cleaner, newer look to his broadcast last week. So that was really, really good. I like seeing his growth there, and I hope you do too, as you get to tune in to Friday Night Fuel's quest to conquer the racetrack that requires you to turn right and left over in Chicago. For my broadcast partner, Ricky, my name is Zach Woods, and I hope you've enjoyed tonight's show. And until we meet again, we'll talk to you guys real soon.